man up, stop crying. Over time, that'll create a narrative that men are devoid of their emotions. Your feelings and your emotions do not make you weak. It makes you human. Hey, it's me. So I wanted to share my thoughts about having a soft place to land geared towards men. Realistically, this could relate towards other aspects as well, but I'm gearing this specifically towards men because I feel like they may have been told during their life to man up, don't cry, emotions make you weak, stop acting soft, or just get over it. For me, I've happened to date my fair share of unemotional men, and of course, what specifically got to them in that area isn't the same for everyone, but probably safe to say they didn't feel emotionally supported, and ultimately, they didn't have a soft place to land. I feel like this likely started at childhood, or that ideal was put in their head at an earlier age, maybe even as a teenager. So I was watching this movie, and there was a boy in the car with his mother and his sister, and they were on the way to school. He was young, like 6 or 7, and he was crying because he was getting bullied at school and he didn't want to go. But there wasn't any care or compassion put towards his pure expression of upset. Instead, it was just met with responses of denial of his emotions that were unsupportive, like, come on, we have to go, hurry up. Hurry up and cry, hurry up and get over it, hurry up and get out of the car. Instead of his expressions, they were just dismissed, met with a lack of approval, invalidation, however you want to look at it. Understandably, he has to get to school, but I think a few moments could have been spent addressing his emotions. Simply saying, what do you mean by bullying? Are they calling you names, or are they physically putting their hands on you? Let's just say, for example, it was name calling. I would ask them, what do they say to you? And then I'm going to spend a moment pouring into my son, letting him know how amazing he is. And just because the silly kids at school are too ignorant to see his greatness doesn't mean it's not there. And he doesn't know his power yet, but I need him to be strong. And that there are cruel people in the world who will prey on his kindness and take it as weakness. That I want him to put on a brave face. And I know that it's hard, but once they see that they can't get to him, they'll lose interest, and in time, they'll stop bullying you. And give him some type of example to maybe build him up and say, if someone was picking on your little sister, can you show me how you would respond? Can you show me your brave face? So when someone tries to pick on you, I want you to do that same thing and stand up for yourself. And when I come to pick you up from school, I'm going to give you a hug, tell me about your day, but you share those tears just with me. Now, of course, this is a purely hypothetical example. And for some people, it may even feel like coddling. But for me, it's laying the seed and the groundwork that it's okay to have emotions. And like I said before, this can fit into other aspects of people, but I am gearing this specifically towards men. I think it's important to express and have these emotions validated early on to help them understand his authentic self. Instead of, if it was just met with man up, stop crying, over time, that'll create a narrative that men are devoid of their emotions. So let's shift this into adulthood. Let's say this man is in a relationship and the woman that he is with says something that upsets him, but instead of him acknowledging that feeling, he pushes it down and he thinks, I'm a man. I'm not going to let some stupid words upset me because I'm not weak. Incorrect. You're human. And your feelings and your emotions do not make you weak. It makes you human. But if you grew up with a narrative that feelings are just a weakness that hinder you, well, you're more likely to shut them down. And ultimately, you're shutting down certain aspects of yourself. Now, of course, there is a time and a place for everything. I'm not saying to have a breakdown in the middle of the grocery store, but you should be able to tell your closest friend. You should be able to tell the woman that you love. Pushing down emotions only bottles them up, which can eventually lead to a sudden buildup in emotions which can come as an outburst of anger, or maybe it's the pure opposite and it's a complete shutdown and isolation. I heard this quote or saw it online, and it said that we have tears to cry, and what we don't express, we carry. I think that emotions become a burden in that sense, as in we didn't express it, so we carry it, and we carry that burden with us. We carry those feelings with us. The result can sometimes be anger or isolation, but I also think it can be anxiety, depression, hypersexualization, excessive smoking, drinking, or overeating. Now, I'm not saying correlation is causation. Being void of emotions doesn't automatically equate to those things, but I do think having a safe outlet can help alleviate some of those negative feelings. Some men are ready to go to war, but they won't express their emotions. They would rather incur physical harm than say words to express how they feel. And of course, this isn't all men, but sometimes that war or battle that they're fighting is possibly an internal one. They refuse to even let the option come up that someone could view them as weak. Now, let's shift the focus towards relationships. The same way some men have been raised to be void of emotion is the same way some women have been raised to expect that voidness of emotion. If she sees a man get upset or express himself, well, he's soft or he's feminine, which is really an archaic and destructive way of thinking. Weakness and feelings are not synonymous. It takes a lot more courage to recognize where you're at and discuss it. Make yourself vulnerable and put your feelings out there than it is to dismiss them and sweep them under the rug. When you grew up in an environment with a societal, familial, friendships, or even just a romantic precedence, it can be hard to overcome that. Some other important aspects to note that can be detrimental are who you express yourself with and when you do it. Timing. How long have you known them? I'm going to give an example. A few years ago, I was chatting with a guy on a dating app. Just the basics so far of like, where are you from? How old are you? Is your family from here? No real connection or commonalities made. He sent a message one night and he was like frantic, he was anxious, and he was saying how he really needed someone to talk to. I can't remember the specific situation, but I just remember like his overwhelming messages of like anxiety. I hadn't known him for very long. It hadn't even been a week, maybe 2 or 3 days at that point. We hadn't spoke about exchanging numbers, and I felt like he was putting a lot of pressure on me to relieve the weight of his situational anxiety. But I wasn't comfortable crossing my bounds to call him, and I just wasn't at the bandwidth to have that type of call with someone that I barely knew. So I politely stated that I wasn't comfortable and it just wasn't going to work due to timing. Now, of course, I worded it differently, but that's the gist of it. The other aspect is who you share with. The longevity of knowing someone doesn't automatically equal emotional safety. We've probably all been in a situation where we vented to someone, a friend, family, partner, or a coworker, and realized they did not have our back. Some people just aren't supportive, and sometimes they don't know what to say because it's not always easy to find the right words to comfort someone. But someone who isn't supportive and someone who's having a hard time finding the words are definitely two very different scenarios. Which reminds me of something I heard Benny Brown say. You share with the people who deserve the right to hear your story, who can bear the weight of your story. And let's be real, all women are not nurturing or supportive, and all men don't want to be emotionally supported. Everyone's life journey is different, and some people don't have the capacity or the capability to and don't care to learn. But if you're the type who wants to become capable or you want to be with someone who has the capacity for you, it's important to first recognize and put the weight on those emotions you feel yourself. Because you can expect someone else to support something if you're lying to yourself. Then comes the hard part, finding support and being vulnerable with them. It should be progressive. I'm not saying to tell your deepest, darkest fears on the first date. And similarly for women, don't bare your soul on the first phone call, but lay the groundwork for it. Express your truth in a receptive way so he knows that you are a soft place to land. There's enough negativity, manipulation, degradation, shaming, and bullying in the world. Make sure your relationship is not a mirror of those things. A romantic relationship can support and comfort him in his life in ways other relationships honestly just can't. He shouldn't feel dismissed by you, but valued from you. And that's what your relationship should mirror. Reciprocal energy where you are emotionally supportive and pour into each other. I'm going to end in a quote. Pain is mandatory. Suffering is optional. You can't skip the pain. You can't rise before the fall. Pain teaches us. And also, just to add on, I hope your pain, regardless of your life's narrative or trajectory, lets you realize you still deserve a soft place to land.